Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Eli Camp, and this is my podcast, Vital Wisdom. This is where I talk about health, wellness, raising children, homesteading, and lots of other topics, all from a vitalistic perspective. I believe the body can heal itself if it's given what it needs, is not poisoned, and if the innate healing ability is supported and not suppressed. It's my intention to bring what I have learned in my life, especially in the 24 years that I've been either training or practicing to be a physician, to help you be your own best doctor. This episode is part of a 12-part series where I and one of my mentors, Dr. Letitia Kronenberg, talk about what we call the axioms of naturopathic medicine, of holistic medicine, really, of vitalistic medicine. Each axiom can really be thought of as a law of natural healing, and they guide a naturopathic doctor in the practice of their medicine. They're not often discussed, but they're critical for understanding how the body becomes and stays healthy. Or on the reverse side, when they're violated, how a body shows signs of illness. Thanks for joining me and enjoy the episode.
Well, good morning, Eli. Wonderful to see you again on another Axiom talk today.
Awesome. Man, it's beautiful here. It is so beautiful. It's like 70 degrees and the wind is blowing and the sky is blue. I saw what do you call that strip of stars through the sky? I always called it, oh, look, I can see the Milky Way. But isn't there like a more official name for that band of stars that you can see now?
It's the Milky Way.
Milky Way. So we saw that last night. It's been awesome.
Oh, I love that. I know I was out looking for the Perseid meteor showers. I didn't see any.
No, we were cloudy, so we didn't.
Yeah. I love this time of year. Difficulty here is this is the time in Spokane where we hit triple digits. So for this next week, I think it was 100 yesterday. I think it's 102 today, just for this short time, and then it cools down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're at.
I'll enjoy the cool weather for you.
Yeah, please do, because I got the air conditioning on and everything, shut down for the blinds and everything. I feel like it's winter time here because we're shut in.
So axioms, man, I love these talks. These are great.
Yeah, this is, a journey to get through all these, but as you know, it was something that Jim Sensenig was really trying to codify, and we've spent a lot of time looking through Lindlar, looking through other resources to basically get these laws of nature written down. And so we're on number 8 today, the law of conservation of energy, which is a great topic. And I know you and I've talked briefly about some cases that we'll bring up, because I think this is really relevant in how we treat our patients and pace our patients' care. So this is really a critical one.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. Well, I will go ahead and start with Jim's quote again, because it's so pointed. His talk about these laws, he says naturopathic medicine is based on universal principles that are true and hold true for all time. We don't have to change what we're doing for the 21st century because the same rules and laws apply to nature, and the natural process of healing are immutable. They don't change, they're always there. And that's why we can count on them with our healing practice and therapeutics. So
like all the time,
right?
It's not a study where 30% of the people respond to these and that's considered reliable. It's like they're immutable. It's every single time. We might not always see it or understand what's happening in front of us. This is what I've discovered. But when everything shakes out at the end and you look back over the puzzle pieces, you can clearly see it followed the laws of nature. All of the axioms we're talking about, they're all there in every cured case.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you're not working with them, or at least aware of them, then you stop that healing process. And it can happen
Every time.
every time. I know. I know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, so, so what is this axiom? Like, how do we say this in a nutshell? What
The
is it?
axioms, I went through that with Jim saying, are they laws? Are they tenets? And I think in that first PowerPoint I brought out at the Vital Gathering, I went through the definitions of those and why we didn't choose those. I chose axiom, and Jim hadn't come upon that, but I started researching, what word hits this? It's what is this? And so I settled on axiom because the definition is a statement or proposition which is regarded as being established, accepted, or self-evidently true. So it's like we know it and we know it's true, and we just accept it as true, like gravity.
Mm-hmm. Like
Right?
gravity.
Like
Sure.
gravity. And another, there's a French, a Latin, and a Greek base of that word. But basically it says, what is thought fitting? What is thought fitting? So this fits, right? This
Yeah.
fits the theories, it fits the principles, the natural laws that we see. So that's why I decided to call them axioms of nature.
And it was perfect. For me, what really gets me about the concept of axiom is self-evident. All you have to do is look. They're there. They're not even hidden. You don't even have to do research. You just have to see them. You just have to acknowledge and understand them. So law of conservation of
Mhm.
energy.
Yeah, the law of conservation of energy. And so, there's the physics principle that energy is never created nor destroyed, right? It only changes from one form to another. And there's also the thinking in healing that the body eliminates via the path of least resistance. So the body's conserving energy, putting it to where it's most effective. And boy, we see that in commerce. We see it in all walks of life. We see that we put our energy into things that we get the most benefit from with the least effort,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Work smarter, not
Body,
harder.
yeah, the body does the same thing. It does that. So it's changing its power and focusing its power on what needs to heal at the time, what's most critical. And I think you have a case that kind of demonstrates that, I
Mm-hmm.
think,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. So I'm going to modify it just a little bit, right? Because it's the same concept. So had this patient, she's I don't know, in her late 30s, early 40s, mom of a normotypical teen, daughter who's now graduated college, and a son who was diagnosed on the spectrum, very young. And it was after he went in for his 2-year checkup, and he hadn't had any of his vaccines, and there was such pressure put on her. They gave him everything on that visit,
Oh,
everything.
crap.
But on the vaccine card, they documented it one day after the other, not all on the same date. But she didn't know that because the vaccine card stayed with this chart.
No. Oh,
And within 3 days, he was completely, fully blown, severely autistic. And they didn't find me for a couple of years after that. Anyway, so I've known the family a long time. It was very early in my career that I passed across paths with them. And I've taught her nature cure. I've taught her homeopathy. I've taught her herbs. They're very self-sufficient. But she got some viral illness last year, and she was severely ill. She was under a lot of stress at the time, mental, emotional, and I think she'd had like some respiratory thing right before that. But anyway, she got very ill with viral symptoms, and it took a long time for her. She progressed very slowly, always in a positive direction for the most part, but a long time. So most viral illnesses, I have people up and about within 10 days. I
Mhm.
make them take a long convalescence. They probably would say to you, I'm better after 3 or 4 days, but that crazy doctor makes me stay in bed for another 4 or 5 days. I'm perfectly fine. But I believe in convalescence. And so she eventually was better. And she said, I feel completely normal. She was acting normal. Everything was great. A little bit of time goes by, a few weeks, and she cut her finger, her thumb, almost completely off with
Oh,
a mandolin down to the bone. It was very bad. They tried to find the piece of the thumb in the hopes that it would get sewn back on. And she, uh, well, I'm going to tell the case as it is because it is kind of a twist, but I think you're going to be able to explain this really well. What I would have expected, in which I've seen 100 times, is that the symptoms of the whatever somebody might have at that time go away, and the body refocuses right on this immediate injury. For her, what happened is this didn't give her that much trouble, and it could not have all been arnica and hypericum, right? That kept that pain and all those symptoms at bay. But what she had just recovered from came back full force, worse than it was. It just knocked her out, slammed her down. Now, we dealt with that. And then the finger gave her all sorts of issues. We got through that. It's healed, and new tissue has grown, and it looks like the nail is going to grow back. It's pretty amazing. There's only part of a nail bed left. Um, and then that cleared, and that's healing, and she completely got over the viral stuff. And for me, that was the conservation of energy, and with a little bump in it, right? Because instead of the finger getting it all, the disease that clearly had the imbalance that clearly had not been resolved came
yeah.
back. So what do you think?
Yeah, it seems like the body was stimulated by the injury, right? But it shook it up so much and went, wait a minute, we still have this.
Yes.
That is more critical on a deeper level than the acute injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is more critical to survival. This has to happen first.
Mm-hmm.
So once you invigorate that immune response, it went, we still have this to clear up.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. The normal pattern is, like I said, whatever they're dealing with at the moment seems to magically disappear while the body handles this new onslaught of trauma and needing
Right,
healing. Um, but it's the same principle. I knew about it, which is why I knew what was happening.
right.
For people who don't know, they think, oh, well, the injury wasn't that severe on the finger because look, the body's not making a big deal about it. But
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. There was a situation my dad always talked about with people, or he'd lecture, he used this case in his lecture. It was actually Bill Carroll, OG Carroll's son. Dad was practicing with OG Carroll, and Bill Carroll was a skier. So he went up skiing and he broke his leg. So he had it in a cast, and he was trying to, come to clinic and work with a cast on his leg. And my dad says, well, how you doing? He goes, oh, I'm doing great. My leg doesn't really hurt. It's healing really well. And then the next day he came in just like, I had a terrible night. I couldn't sleep. My leg is killing me. I'm in so much pain today. And he says, well, what's different? My dad's like, what'd you do different? He says, oh, well, I I ate this. I went out to this, with friends. We had this really big meal. I had too much alcohol. He really overindulged. And then what happened is the pain came. So when you're fasting, when you're convalescing, when you're fasting, the body can put that energy into that healing process. And there really, you don't have much pain. So what happened with Bill is when he stressed his system and he pulled all of that vital energy into trying to digest and break down that really heavy meal and detox through his liver, it was too much. And then the pain came and the inflammation came. And so when you're fasting a person through a crisis, when you take away that extra burden of digestion and putting more into that toxemic load, you decrease that toxemic load, the body has then the vitality and the energy to put into that healing. And that's when the pain and inflammation will come down. So that was my father's way of describing this, this conservation of energy.
Oh, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Where I said to you earlier when we were just chatting, it's like your body has the resources to make one cake. You can't ask it to make 4 or 5.
Right.
You have to understand where is it doing its work. It'll tell you. That's what I've discovered. The body tells us with its symptoms exactly what it's the most important thing and what it's trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The problem with our Western medicine right now and how people are ingrained to thinking about their symptoms is, well, I better go take a pain reliever, or I better go take something to stop this cough, or I better go take something. And so when they're doing the suppressive therapeutics, they're not allowing the body's own own level of communication to happen. And so we don't see what, it's been blocked. The communication's been blocked. And so we don't see the whole picture. They don't understand the dynamics. They don't feel the dynamics because it's been suppressed. And so, as a naturopath, we were looking at these people going, wow, where are they at with this scene? And we can't even get a good, clear understanding of what the body's trying to tell us because communication has been blocked in so many ways.
It's like trying to get a telegraph message when there's chunks cut out of the wires, and you get these is nonsensical. Well, I think that's in the last 10 years. So my first 10 years, I was practicing homeopathy with a group of patients coming in where their cases were convoluted, but I could sort through them pretty easily. And maybe even in the last 4 years, something shifted so dramatically that I feel like the message I'm getting from the body is like the chopped up telegraph wires. Like there's bits and pieces of all these different things going on. And of course, these people have had a lot of suppressive therapy.
Yeah, I think it's getting harder for us to clearly see these things. And until that person's vitality has enough power to bring into a reaction or a crisis, then we can get some clarity, or they go through that, then we could get more clarity. But it is like really peeling the layers off the onion and trying to figure things out.
Who is one of our old forebears that said before you do anything, you should fast the patient for like 7 days? Who was it that said that? Was that Knipe? I don't remember, but one of our people that came before started every single treatment with every single patient with a fast.
Right.
They hydrated them, but it was a fast, and I remember reading, gosh, I wish I could remember which book. Jim was so good at remembering all those people's
I know.
names.
Yeah, it might have been in Wendell's book or something.
Maybe Wendell, I don't remember, but it was all about this conservation of energy.
Right.
We must relieve the request of the different parts of the body for this vital healing power that flows through all humans. Like I can remember the conversation that the practitioner had about that. And to do that, you remove the toxic load, all of this stuff. And that was how they started everything. They wouldn't give them anything. And they apparently patients grumbled about going and seeing a doctor and not be given something to take to feel better. But instead they took everything away from them that brings them comfort, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's why fasting is so critical, especially when someone's in pain or has a fever. That's when my father would always fast people just on water. You know, we do a water fast. I've done it occasionally with patients in the clinic when they're in big crisis, but the body naturally will do that. It's like when a child has 103 fever, they don't want to eat.
No.
You know, it's a natural thing. You don't eat, you fast. And so that's conserving the energy. That's putting the energy where it needs to be so you can invigorate that fever, you can burn up those toxins, kill that bacteria or virus, and then return to balance. And so that's just part of that natural law.
You know, something else we talked about that I think is important for people to hear is from the practitioner perspective, when you're evaluating a patient, you have, right? We have to have a sense of this vitality and what that patient is going to be able to handle.
Right.
I mean, I know you evaluate just as second nature the vitality of every single person that you work with. But if you have to slow it down in slow motion, what do you look at? How do you assess that vitality?
Well, one of the first things I'll do in just sitting with the person is, you know, you listen to the strength of their voice. You look at the color of their skin. You know, is it moist or not? You know, are they sitting up straight? You know, are they like, you know, what is their demeanor? How are they looking? How are they presenting? Did they walk down the hallway to your office in a easy fashion, or were they struggling? You know, you can get a sense. I can tell pretty quickly if a woman's anemic or not, just by how she's holding herself, and if she's short of breath or not. So you can get a sense, right? And this is why it's so important to have an in-person contact with the person. You can't really get that over Zoom easily. It's so important to have that person in front of you, I think. And then when I get a person on a hydrotherapy table, I always listen to their heart tones. You can tell a lot by the heart tones, the vitality of that person. And then I do the bone and blood analysis, which the blood says everything to us. You know, it tells you how much power is in the body or not, if there's inflammation in the metabolism or not. It shows in the blood.
Mm-hmm.
So there's ways to do that. I know there's post-diagnosis ways. There's a lot of ways to evaluate that vitality of the person. And what we're always trying to do is bring that vital force up. We're always giving support so the body can do that. It has the wisdom. You just need to sometimes get out of the way.
Right. Sometimes.
Right? Or do less is more. Just fast a person, just convalesce. It's okay, because that's when healing happens. When you're sleeping, you're healing. You've got to be in that parasympathetic mode to heal. And so how many of us do that? How many of us take that time? Or that mother that you were just talking about, you know, yeah, she needed to convalesce. So there's all of those important aspects to healing the metabolism and taking a break, letting the body have the time. So yeah, that's critical. So one of the axioms that might be coming up and Lindlar talks about is the law of crisis. But I think the law of crisis goes into this law of conservation of energy. So a quote that I pulled up a while ago, let's see if I can read it here. Healing reaction or crisis. You increase the vital force, you proceed toward balance. The innate healing power will eliminate the toxin in the most efficient and energy conserving way. Why expend more energy than necessary? The vis conserves, nature conserves. Fasting during a healing crisis thus conserves energy and allows the full power of the body to be used for healing and not diverted into digestion. There was always this quote that my dad would give people, and it's from an old physiology book. It says 60% of your metabolic energy is used for digestion, 30% for brain power, 10% for muscles. So I always think our muscles use all our energy, but it's not. It's our brain and its digestion. And so this is why we convalesce to heal, because then you're taking that 60% of that metabolic energy used for digestion, and you're converting that and using the body then can use that to heal. It can
Mhm.
put that power into that limb to heal, or it can put that power into clearing that final push of that viral infection that that woman had. So the body is wise. It'll use it where it needs to use it.
I tell people whenever I give them a remedy, they come in and they say to me, you know, I really just want to get rid of this dandruff or this eczema, or I want to get rid of this burning pain after I eat, or, you know, I really want a remedy that's going to make my knees not hurt. So they usually have something that's bothering them when they come in and they want to have their case taken. And I say to them, well, I'll just tell you right now that I don't have a crystal ball. I can find the most likely remedy based on the symptoms that you have, but I can't tell you what's actually going to happen once you take that remedy, because you're just stimulating the vital force in your body, the healing power of your body, the healing power of nature, right? The vis medicatrix, nature. We're stimulating that, and it's going to use its wisdom, its knowledge to do what needs to be done in your body. And it's my great hope at the end of that, that you don't have dandruff or eczema and your knees don't hurt. But I can't tell you what's going to happen between point zero when you take it and the
Yeah,
end when we get there.
right,
I don't know what the body's going to do.
right, right. You can guess, we can go by Herring's law of cure, right? So we know
Yes.
that the body's going to heal from inside out, most critical organs first to last, with that dandruff, when people come in with skin things, that's like, I need this, this is the critical part. I go, okay, hey, there's a lot of healing that has to happen before the skin heals, because the skin is the very last thing to heal. You've got to heal the liver, you've got to heal the stomach, you've got to get the pancreas working, all that other stuff has to happen before that skin, and you got to put the right nutrition in. Because if you're not getting enough vitamin A in your diet, you're not getting enough essential fats in your diet, that skin doesn't have the power to heal. It doesn't
Yes.
have the nutrition it needs to heal. So yeah, I know, we're raised, people are raised in this this philosophy, an pill for an ill and a quick fix. And it's just the body has its own method.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, its
Mm-hmm.
own method. Yeah.
You know, moving out here to this acreage and homestead farming,
Mm-hmm.
um, we're still on the grid because it takes time, right, to extricate yourself. But we're much more self-sufficient. We're producing a lot of things we used to buy at the store, and that has given me an appreciation for nature in a different way, different than going hiking and different than camping and different than backpacking and different than having a small garden in my backyard. It is the laws of nature and the harmony of how everything works together and the logic of it all wrapped up in this nice, neat little package that I see every minute of every day. Plants don't have enough water, they don't have enough food, they don't have enough sun, they have too much heat, they don't thrive. And it's so clear to see we're a reflection of these same laws of nature. If we don't have our food and we're not getting rid of our toxins and we're not
Yeah.
supporting our vital force, I'm seeing it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. As I've lived on this property now over 20 years, it's been interesting to see the cycles happen.
Mm,
Like right now, I'm trying to harvest mullein, and it's probably too late in the season. It's
mhm.
very hot right now. There's hardly any good mullein leaves out there. Everything's like a dead, dying little plant with a few little blossoms on it.
All right.
And and But last year, the mullein was giant,
Yeah.
you know, in the same field where I go pick it. Last year, I had like 4 to 5 foot plants with leaves that were like a foot long.
Yeah.
And you've got these scrawny little plants with leaves like this big. Each season is so different. And I expected, because we started out so wet this spring, I thought this will be a great year again. No. So it's interesting to watch the cycles of the plants. You know, my neighbor just said that their apple tree didn't make any apples this year. I have 2 trees that didn't make any apples this year. They
Mhm.
decided to give it a break. They're just
Mhm.
not making apples this year, even though they
Mhm.
bloom like crazy. I have 1 tree that every year doesn't matter. It's just going to make apples no matter what. And it did, and it's great. And it just probably will. But the
Always,
other
yeah.
trees just go, nah, not this year. Like, okay. And I watched that with the cherry trees around my clinic. There's a couple cherry trees the neighbors have. And this cherry tree will make dump cherries, just tons of cherries. And then it'll take 2 years off and then do it again.
Mhm.
You know, these
Mhm.
plants have cycles. You know, you see the land have cycles. You see even my bees have cycles. You can see it, how they bring in different, you know, and I know that plants have different times of the day that they'll make pollen, and different times of the day they make nectar, and the bees know that, right? So they harvest certain things at certain times from the same plant. They'll
Exactly.
get nectar from the dandelion at some time of the day, and they'll get pollen at another time of the day.
Exactly.
And so it's really interesting to watch these cycles. And
We've lost touch as humans with our cycles. Like the animals don't have all these living things around us. They have not been confused by societal constructs. And generations have gone with some families have continued, I think, to teach this wisdom, but so many millions of people have lost touch with the human cycle of life.
Right. Yeah.
But
Well,
that's okay.
that's going to bring us into the next talk of periodicity. So
Oh, wow. How
that feeds
fortuitous
right
was that?
into the next one we're going to be doing. Yeah. I'm going to give you a quote from Plato.
Mm.
Here we go. Plato says, "The wise men say that one community embraces heaven and earth and gods and men and friendship and order and temperance and righteousness. And for this reason, they call the whole a cosmos, my friend, for it is not without order, nor yet is there excess." So this is where the law of conservation of energy is. The universe even doesn't let excess happen. It uses every part at every point, particularly in an energetic way that fits the whole being of everything, right? So
Mhm.
the body doesn't allow excess to happen.
Mhm.
In a
Got any good cases that you've had over the last couple weeks to share with us?
Oh, let me think. Man, there's just been a lot of stuff going on. How can I tie this one in? Let me think about this. Well, I don't know if this ties into this talk,
Okay.
but I got to talk about this case. So I have this little girl. She's now 14 years old. I think she came to me when she was 5 or 6. And she was an in vitro baby. She was born without a spleen. She was born with a 3-chambered heart. And the heart was on the wrong side of the body. So this little girl's gone through through the years, probably 2 or 3 open heart surgeries, replumbed all sorts of things, moved all sorts of things around. And as she's growing, and they really didn't expect her to live past the age of 6 or 7.
Oh, wow.
And the concern was with the 3-chamber heart that particularly it puts a lot of pressure on the liver, so that at some point she'd probably have liver sclerosis and die of liver disease, actually. So they were always watching her liver, and got to the point where the pediatric team at Seattle's Children's Hospital determined at some point she's going to need a new heart. So they put her on a heart transplant list. And believe me, this girl's doing incredibly well. She was growing, developing, she's been doing wonderful. The mother found me actually through standard process. She wanted to find a naturopath who used natural nutritional support. And that's how she found me, was through standard process. So I'd been working with her on nutrition and things all these years, keep her immune system strong. So a heart came up and for transplant, and they called me and said, we're flying into Seattle. She's going to get a new heart within 24 hours. It's like, oh, holy cow, it's really happening. And so she went through that process. She now has a new heart. She has an adult heart. It's on the correct side of her body, although it's incorrect for her because she was born the other way. So she has an adult heart and she's doing incredibly well. It's been 9 months now. She's 14 years old and she has no signs of rejection of her heart. And it's just really an incredible miracle case. But the interesting thing is, and this is part tying into the Carol food intolerance issue, initially when I tested this girl, she was fruit intolerant. And then with transfusions and things, she became dairy intolerant. And we know with blood transfusions, somehow it changes the Carol intolerance. And so now with the new heart, the mom's saying that diet's not working right for her. She's getting a lot of indigestion and upset. And I said, well, we really got to look at her protein loads, make sure her protein loads are up. And I just mentioned this last visit, I said, well, one way you could get protein up is those good farm eggs you used to get. And she goes, oh, no, I don't want to do eggs. The girl was like, no eggs. Eggs really bother me. I'm like, really? Because they used to do really good for you. So sure enough, I test her with the Carol intolerance and she's now egg intolerant.
And still dairy and still fruit?
No, so she can have fruit and she can have dairy. She just cannot have eggs right now. So I expect this to change at some point. I don't know, but maybe not. With all the transfusions and now a new organ, I don't know. I don't know what this will settle out to be. Maybe she'll be egg intolerant for the rest of her life. I have no idea. But you can see how the body is conserving energy and using it to heal all this process she's gone through. It's really been incredible to watch, and just an incredible girl, just really a neat girl.
That's awesome.
It's been really cool to see, And it's interesting how when I propose to do particular botanicals or nutrition for her, she now has a transplant team, anti-rejection team, and her other pediatric team, and they all have to hubbub and consult each other about, geez, can we use shave grass tea? Can we use this herb or that herb, or does it interact with our medications, and all these crazy things I've had to go through. And so lately it's been, can I use uva ursi for her? And the question was, does it interact with her anti-rejection drugs? And as far as I can tell, it does not. I just consulted with Dr. Paul Anderson and he says, different pathway. And I said, that's what I thought. Not a problem. So
he's such a great resource.
Thanks for joining me today. For those of you interested in learning more about the teachings that are offered at the Naturopathic Medicine Institute and becoming a public member, they have both free and paid, visit thevitalnd.org. For those of you interested in my books and other offerings, I get emails and texts from y'all all the time. Here's just a short summary where you can find them. The Unvaccinated Child is a book. It's a resource guide for parents and caregivers to navigate childhood illnesses in a natural and healthy way. The intended group was the unvaccinated population, but it turns out it's an important resource for vaccinated as well, since we know vaccines do not necessarily prevent the illnesses. Smoke Rings is a book I wrote to help smokers. It is judgment-free. It doesn't matter to me what choice you make in your life, but if you're a smoker, love a smoker, used to smoke, continue to smoke, trying to quit, it doesn't matter. This book helps you be your healthiest version along any step of the way. My most recent book, Homeopathy, A Foundational Approach. This is a great book for someone, whether they're a complete beginner or they're already practicing homeopathy. It starts at the beginning and guides you through the basics and into first aid and acute practice and prescribing, so you can start using homeopathy right away. My workshops and courses can be found at either ecampnd.com or longshadowsranch.net. Again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your support and have a great week.